My confession bombed. The moment Jessica Miller told me, "I'm sorry, you're a really great guy," the sky opened up. Perfect timing, right? I walked down the street, soaked to the bone, feeling like a total idiot. And then I saw her, a shadow huddled near a street lamp. As I got closer, I realized it was a person. A girl, sitting on the wet pavement with her knees drawn up, her hair and clothes clinging to her body. She looked pretty wrecked. She looked up at me. Her eyes were incredibly dark. I couldn't tell if the streaks on her face were rain or tears. She just looked at me with those eyes, like a stray puppy someone had dumped on the curb. Can you take me home?" Her voice was so hoarse, I almost couldn't hear it. I froze. "What the hell? I have nowhere else to go," she added softly. "Just for one night. Is that okay?" I looked at her, then at the downpour. The gloom from my rejection suddenly felt washed away by this scene. I sighed. "Get up. The ground is cold." Her name was Kinsley. A bit unusual but pretty. I brought her back to my tiny one-bedroom apartment. I tossed her a dry towel and pointed toward the bathroom. "Go take a hot shower. Don't catch a cold." She clutched the towel, not moving, still looking at me. I don't have any clothes to change into." I had no choice but to dig through my closet and find an old t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants for her. "These will have to do." She took the clothes, whispered a soft, "Thank you," and finally went into the bathroom. I stood there listening to the rush of water, pouring myself a glass of water. I felt a twinge of regret. Was I too impulsive? Just bringing a strange woman home? What if she was a grifter? But then I remembered those eyes. Never mind, consider it community service. When she came out, she was wearing my clothes, which were clearly a size too big, the sleeves rolled up several times. Her wet hair hung over her shoulders, making her face look small and pale. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the sofa. She sat obediently, hands folded in her lap, sitting ramrod straight. "What happened? Fight with your family?" I asked. She shook her head, then nodded. They got rid of me," she said without much expression, but her eyes looked vacant. My gut clenched. "Why?" "They have a new family, a new kid," she said quietly. I was just extra. I didn't know what to say. That actually happens. "So, what's your plan now?" She looked up, giving me that look again. "I don't know." Great. Asking questions was pointless. That night she slept on the sofa, and I took the bedroom. I woke up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and found the sofa empty. My heart leaped. I tiptoed into the living room and found her curled up on the rug between the sofa and the coffee table. She was sleeping fitfully, brow deeply furrowed. I stood there watching for a moment, then decided not to wake her. I went back to the bedroom, grabbed a thin blanket, and covered her. She shifted slightly, but didn't wake up. I woke up the next morning to the smell of cooking. Fried eggs and rice porridge. I stumbled out of the bedroom to see Kinsley, wearing my apron, busy in the kitchen. "You're up," she turned and smiled at me. "Breakfast is almost ready." The table was already set with porridge, fried eggs, and some soup dumplings I recognized from the deli downstairs. "I didn't know what you like, so I got a little of everything," she said. I was stunned. This level of service was better than what my own mom gave me. "What are you planning on doing today?" I asked while eating the eggs. She paused while spooning porridge for me. Can I stay a few more days?" She set the bowl in front of me, her voice very quiet. "The second I find a job, I'll move out, I promise." Seeing her eyes start to well up again, the word no got stuck in my throat. "I can cook, I can clean," she quickly added. "I won't be any trouble." I sighed. "Stay for now. Look for work slowly." Her eyes instantly lit up. "Thank you, Ethan." She actually remembered my name. I only introduced myself once last night. I went to work, leaving her alone in the apartment. All day I was jumpy, wondering if she was snooping through my things, stealing money, or maybe setting the place on fire. When I got home from work and opened the door, I froze. The place was so clean, it was practically glowing. The floor was gleaming, not a speck of dust on the coffee table. Even the windows looked freshly installed. Kinsley poked her head out from the kitchen. "You're back? Dinner's almost ready." She was wearing my oversized t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, a little sweat on her forehead. I suddenly felt like a petty jerk. The girl was working so hard, and I was suspicious of her. After dinner, I wanted to text Jessica. After all, I'd like her for so long. Even after the rejection, I wanted to keep things friendly. But I searched through my contacts and couldn't find Jessica. Weird, I was sure I'd saved her. I scrolled further and realized all my female contacts were gone. College classmates, female colleagues, even my mom's friend Aunt Carol's number gone. "Kinsley," I said, walking into the kitchen with my phone. "Did you mess with my phone?" She was washing dishes, her hands paused in the sink. "No, I didn't." She turned to look at me, her expression incredibly innocent. Maybe you accidentally deleted them? I looked at her wet hands and her genuine eyes, and I figured I was probably overthinking things again. Maybe, I said. She turned back to the dishes, but I caught the faint upturn of her lips. The third night, I had to work late, getting home after 10. I pushed the door open to blackness. Kinsley? No answer. I flipped the light switch and saw her curled up asleep on the sofa. The dinner she'd saved for me was on the coffee table, covered with plastic wrap. I walked over quietly, intending to get her a blanket. As I got close, I realized she was hugging my jacket from yesterday. Her face was buried in it, her breathing deep like she was smelling it. A chill ran down my spine. Kinsley, she woke up abruptly. Seeing me, her eyes flickered from confusion to panic. I was just a little cold. She quickly tossed my jacket aside as if it were hot to the touch. Neither of us spoke. The air felt frozen. I took a step back. That movement seemed to provoke her. She suddenly stood up, eyes locked on me. Are you kicking me out? I didn't say that, but Kinsley, this is... She bolted into the kitchen. I heard the sound of a drawer yanking open. I followed and saw her holding a small paring knife, the tip pointed at her own wrist. You're leaving me too, aren't you? Her voice trembled, and huge tears streamed down her face. Everyone does this. They all say they'll take care of me, and then they all leave. My heart nearly stopped. Put the knife down. I tried to keep my voice steady. Let's just talk. No, she screamed, the tip of the knife already pressing into her skin, drawing a white mark. Swear it. Swear you won't kick me out. I stared at the knife tip, cold sweat running down my back. I swear, I said. I won't kick you out. Really? Her eyes were terrifyingly red. Really? Put the knife down. She stared at me for a few seconds, then slowly lowered the knife. But there was a thin red line already on her wrist. I found a Band-Aid and applied it. She sat there quietly, letting me tend to her, as if she hadn't been the one holding a knife to herself just moments ago. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to. I didn't say anything, carefully pressing down the edges of the bandage. I'm just scared. Her voice got even quieter. I looked up at her. She was back to that pitiful look, eyes glistening, all the recent craziness gone without a trace. Don't do that again, I said. Hurting yourself doesn't solve anything. She nodded, compliant to an unbelievable degree. What I picked up wasn't a docile kitten. It was something that bit, even if it only bit itself. Now, she needed to hold my finger to fall asleep every night. At first, I tried to pull it away, but the moment I moved, she'd start whimpering in her sleep, her brow tightly knotted. Eventually, I gave up. Just let her hold on. It wouldn't cost me anything. It was just that sometimes, waking up in the dead of night to see her gripping my hand so tightly gave me the creeps. Like I was snagged on something. On the weekend, my friend Mike organized a get-together and invited me out. I said I was bringing someone. Mike yelled into the phone. Holy hell. Ethan, when did you get a girlfriend? Not a girlfriend. I glanced at Kinsley hanging laundry on the balcony. Just a friend. I brought Kinsley along. She stayed quietly by my side, wearing a new dress I bought her, looking perfectly normal. At the dinner table, everyone was curious about her. She was quiet, answering questions briefly, appearing very shy. One of the women Mike brought, Chloe, was super outgoing and kept pouring me drinks. Ethan, a toast to us. I really needed your help on that last project. I raised my glass, about to drink, when Kinsley accidentally bumped the water glass next to her. The entire glass of water splashed all over Chloe's dress. Ah! Chloe shrieked, jumping up. Kinsley immediately scrambled into my arms, looking completely startled. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Her voice was almost a sob. While apologizing to Chloe, I automatically pulled Kinsley closer. It's fine, she didn't mean it. Chloe's face was sour, but she didn't press the issue. For the rest of the meal, Kinsley stayed pressed against me, and nobody else tried to toast me. On the way home, she seemed to be in a great mood, humming a little tune. Were you trying to do that? I suddenly asked. Her humming stopped. Do what? That glass of water. Did you spill it on purpose? She looked down, silent. An admission. I sighed, unsure what to say. I didn't like the way she was looking at you, she suddenly said, her voice tiny. I don't like anyone looking at you like that. Under the streetlight, her profile looked so serene, as if she were just stating a plain fact. A shiver traced its way down my spine. A few days later, I was looking for something in my study and inadvertently pulled open the drawer where Kinsley kept her few personal belongings. I meant to close it immediately, but I spotted an unfamiliar notebook. On a whim, I pulled it out. Tucked inside were a few sheets of paper. One was a medical report, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. The date was from a little over 2 months ago. The other was an old photograph, the corners yellowed and soft. It showed a young Kinsley standing with the back of a man. That back. I squinted at it. It looked vaguely familiar. 2 words were written on the back in pencil. Dad. So her story about her parents abandoning her was true. But that silhouette, I'd definitely seen it somewhere before. That day, I was stressed from work and in a bad mood when I got home. Kinsley had made spicy chicken, but she'd put in way too much chili. I took one bite and scowled. This is way too spicy. How am I supposed to eat this? She stood by the table, twisting the edge of her apron, silent. Forget it, I'm not eating it. I put my chopsticks down and went into the study to order takeout. While I was working on emails in the study, I kept thinking about how harsh I'd been. It was just one dish cooked slightly wrong, salty or bland. Did it warrant that reaction? I came out intending to apologize, only to find she wasn't home. The plate of spicy chicken on the table was still steaming, but she was gone. Kinsley? No answer. I called her cell phone. The ringtone echoed from the sofa. She hadn't brought her phone. A bad feeling washed over me. I bolted out the door. I drove around the neighborhood, not knowing where to look for her. Somehow, I ended up driving down the same street where we first met, and then I actually saw her. She was crouched under that same street lamp, curled up into a tiny ball, the exact same posture as that first night. I slammed on the brakes and ran over. Kinsley. She looked up, her face instantly sporting that wet, tear-streaked look. Seeing me, her eyes brightened for a second, then that light quickly faded. I'm sorry, she said. I'll leave right now. I grabbed her arm. Leave for where? Home. She stayed put, just looking at me. You're not mad at me anymore. I wasn't mad at all, I sighed. I was in the wrong. I shouldn't bring work stress home. She suddenly lunged and wrapped her arms tightly around my waist, burying her face in my chest. I knew you'd come looking for me. Her voice was muffled. I just knew it. I tensed up, then slowly put my hands on her back. Yeah, I'm here. That night, she had a nightmare. I woke up past midnight to the sound of her crying. Not quiet weeping, but suppressed screams and sobs. I rushed into her room. I had given her the bedroom and started sleeping on the sofa and flipped on the light. She was curled up in bed, shaking all over, eyes tightly shut, but tears were pouring out. No, Dad, don't leave me. I sat on the edge of the bed and gently patted her face. Kinsley, wake up, you're dreaming. She jolted awake, looked at me, froze for a few seconds, and then suddenly threw herself into my arms, hugging me so tightly her fingernails dug into my flesh. He's leaving me, she cried, struggling to breathe. They all leave me. I kept patting her back rhythmically. It's okay, it was just a dream. She trembled in my arms, like a leaf in the wind. I held her like that until she slowly calmed down and drifted back to sleep. I tried to pull my hand free, but she was holding on too tightly. In the end, I just lay down next to her. Watching her brow remain furrowed, even in sleep, I suddenly felt that I probably couldn't let this girl go. The company-wide physical came back, and my colleagues were astonished. Ethan, you had pretty bad stomach issues last year, right? How are you fine now? I looked at the report. Sure enough, there wasn't a single stomach problem noted. And your sleep schedule. You're more regular than we health fanatics. I thought of the stomach-soothing congee Kinsley made for me every day and how she'd insist I go to bed by 11 sharp. Maybe. My lifestyle has just become more regular recently, I said. Must be your girlfriend's doing, right? A colleague nudged me, grinning. Heard she's a real domestic goddess. I didn't deny it. I felt a strange, subtle pride, immediately followed by a wave of unease. Could I really accept this level of total control over my life long term? I pretended to fall asleep on the sofa, wanting to see what she would do. She tiptoed over and squatted by the edge of the sofa to look at me. She watched for a long time, her breath lightly brushing my face. Then her lips brushed mine. A quick, fleeting touch. My heart almost stopped. Then I heard her whisper very softly, I'm sorry. She then sprang away like a startled rabbit and fled back to her room. I lay on the sofa, staring wide-eyed until dawn. The sensation of that kiss lingered. When I got home from work, I saw a sleek black luxury car parked outside. I didn't think anything of it, went upstairs, pushed the door open, and found a strange man sitting in the living room. He was in his 50s, wearing a suit, radiating intense authority. Kinsley was sitting opposite him, head bowed, wringing the edge of her shirt in her hands. Who are you? I dropped my bag and walked over. The man looked up at me, his gaze sharp. I'm Kinsley's father, David King. I froze. That silhouette. Yes, the man in the photo. That was him. Kinsley, go pack your things, David King told her, his tone leaving no room for argument. Come home with me. Kinsley shot her head up. I'm not going. Stop this nonsense. Your Uncle Lou's son just got back from overseas. You two should meet, see if you click. I understood. This was a forced engagement. She doesn't want to go. I stepped forward, placing myself in front of Kinsley. She lives with me now. David King sized me up, his expression contemptuous. So you the kid who took her in? Do you have any idea what our King family background is? You think you're good enough for my daughter? My temper flared instantly. Whether I'm good enough isn't up to you. Ah, overreaching. He gave a cold laugh. Kinsley, come with me. Kinsley suddenly stood up and charged into the kitchen. David King and I both froze. When she came back out, she was holding that paring knife, the one she used on her wrist last time. But this time, she pointed the tip at her own throat. Dad. Her voice was unnervingly calm. You leave, or you take my corpse with you to this engagement. Pick one. I looked at the knife pressed against her neck. The tip had already broken the skin, drawing a bead of blood. David King's face went white. Kinsley, put the knife down. You leave. Kinsley's voice was soft, but absolutely firm. Leave right now. David King looked at me, then at Kinsley, veins throbbing in his forehead. Fine, I'll go, he ground out. But this isn't over. He shot me a venomous glare and slammed the door on his way out. The instant the door shut, the knife clattered to the floor. She slumped down the wall, looking as if all the strength had been sucked out of her. I rushed over and knelt down to check her neck. It was okay, just a scrape. Are you insane? My voice was shaking. What if you had hit an artery? She looked up, her eyes frighteningly bright. You just said I belong to you. I froze. What I blurted out in the heat of the moment felt incredibly awkward now. I meant. She suddenly lunged and kissed me. This wasn't the careful, feather-light touch from before. This kiss carried the taste of blood and the salt of tears. It was fierce and desperate. I stood there stiffly, unsure where to put my hands. After several seconds, I managed to gently push her away. Kinsley, wait. Her expression instantly darkened. You still don't like me, do you? No, I wiped my face. But you can't keep using self-harm as a way to... Then what should I do? She interrupted, tears falling. I don't know any other way. I looked at her red-rimmed eyes and suddenly couldn't say a word. Right, from childhood until now, had anyone ever taught her how to love someone the right way? That night, we slept in the same bed. Literally just slept. She held my arm tightly, her face pressed against my shoulder. Ethan, yeah. I won't do that again, she whispered. I won't hurt myself anymore. I didn't speak, waiting for her to continue. Can you teach me how to love someone? She lifted her head, looking at me in the dark. I don't know how. Nobody ever taught me. The softest part of my heart was touched. Okay, I said. I'll teach you. She rubbed her head against my shoulder like a small animal that had finally found its den. What's the first step? The first step, I thought for a moment, is learning to love yourself first. She was silent for a beat. That's hard. I know, I said. I'll be here with you while you learn. On Saturday, we went to the grocery store together. She pushed the cart, and I tossed snacks in. This is good. I picked up a bag of chips, sour cream and onion. She looked intently at the packaging and nodded. When we got to the toiletries aisle, she suddenly stopped. That one. She pointed to a set of couples' toothbrushes on the shelf. Can we get the same kind? I looked at her hopeful eyes and nodded. Sure. She immediately lit up and put 2 blue ones in the cart. At checkout, she held onto the cuff of my shirt tightly, as if afraid I might run off. On the way home, she carried 1 shopping bag, and I carried 2. Ethan, what now? Is this what normal people's lives are like? She asked. Shopping together, buying groceries together, going home together. Yeah, I said. It is. She lowered her head and smiled. On Monday, I left for work, and she stood at the door to see me off. I made lunch. She handed me a container. Eat at noon, okay. I took the container, feeling a little weirded out. You, be good at home. She nodded. I won't go through your things, she said, and I won't delete your contacts either. I looked at her, suddenly feeling like something about her was different. I opened the lunchbox at the office. Inside were carefully arranged dishes. She'd even used a heart-shaped mold for the rice. A colleague walked by and whistled. Whoa, a heart-shaped lunch. Somebody's getting some love. I quickly closed the container, my ears feeling a bit warm. I messaged her at noon. Lunch was delicious. She replied instantly. What do you want tomorrow? I thought for a second. Sweet and sour pork ribs? Deal. One day I worked so late, my phone died. It was almost 1 a.m. when I got home. I pushed the door open to find Kinsley sitting on the sofa in the dark. My stomach dropped. Back to square one. Kinsley? She looked up. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. Why wouldn't your phone answer? Her voice was raspy. It died, I explained. I was working late. Some urgent project came up. She nodded, silent. I walked over and sat next to her. Are you okay? I'm fine, she said, just a little worried. She reached out and took my hand. Her hand was ice cold. I kept thinking, maybe something happened to you, or maybe you didn't want me anymore. I'm not going anywhere, I said. I promised. I know. She lowered her head. But I still get scared. I put my arm around her shoulder. Next time, I'll definitely tell you in advance, okay? She leaned into my chest and gave a soft She didn't mention the knife again that night. About a month later, Kinsley said she wanted to look for a job. Are you sure? You know I can just. I won't try, she said. I can't rely on you to support me forever. I sighed internally. I knew this was a huge step for her. She started sending out resumes and going to interviews. It wasn't smooth sailing. She came back from an interview looking very down. What's wrong? I asked. They asked what I was doing during my employment gap, she said. I said I was resting at home, and they dismissed me. I stroked her head. Take your time. No ruse. She leaned on my shoulder. Ethan, am I really useless? Who says that? I said. You're an amazing cook. You keep the house spotless, and you take great care of people. She looked up, her eyes shining. Really? Really? Finally, she landed a job at a local coffee shop. It wasn't far, and the pay wasn't great, but she was thrilled. I drove her there on her first day. Call me if you need anything, I said. Don't overdo it. She nodded and tied on her apron. I'll get off earlier than you. What do you want for dinner tonight? Anything, I said. I love everything you make. She smiled, her eyes curving into crescent moons. When I got home that evening, she was already there, busy in the kitchen. There was a vase of fresh flowers on the table. How was your day? I asked. Good, she said. The manager is really nice. She showed me how to make latte art. She brought out 2 cups of coffee with wobbly heart shapes on top. They look hideous, she said a little sheepishly. I'm still learning. I took a sip. Delicious. Life finally seemed to be getting on track. David King showed up again. This time, he came directly to the coffee shop to find Kinsley. By the time I rushed over after a call, father and daughter were facing off in a corner booth. Kinsley, come home with me, David King said. That kid isn't worthy of you. Whether he's worthy or not is my decision. Kinsley's voice was calm. Your friend, Uncle Lou's son. I don't know any Uncle Lou's son. Kinsley cut him off. I'm doing great now. David King saw me, and his face darkened further. You still won't give up, will you? Dad, Kinsley stood up. If you come here to disrupt my life again, I'm legally changing my last name to my mother's. David King stared, stunned. You? I mean what I say. Kinsley looked him dead in the eye. You leave now, and I'll still call you Dad. You stay, and I won't. David King looked between me and Kinsley, his temples throbbing. Fine, I'll go, he bit out. But this isn't over. He gave me one last harsh look and stormed out, slamming the door. The moment the door closed, the knife in Kinsley's hand clattered to the floor. She looked like all the strength had been drained from her, and she slid down the wall to sit. I rushed over and knelt to check her neck. It was just a superficial cut. Are you crazy? My voice trembled. What if you had actually hit your artery? She looked up, her eyes shining with a scary intensity. You just said I belonged to you. I froze. What I'd said in a panic felt embarrassing now. I was just. She suddenly threw herself forward and kissed me. This wasn't the hesitant, fleeting touch from before. This kiss tasted of blood and the salt of tears. It was fierce and desperate. I stood there rigid, not knowing where to put my hands. After several seconds, I gently pushed her away. Kinsley, wait a second. Her expression instantly dimmed. You still don't like me, right? No, I'll wipe my face. But you can't keep solving things by hurting yourself. Then what should I do? She cut me off, tears falling. I don't have another way. I looked at her blazing red eyes and suddenly couldn't utter a single word. Right from childhood, had anyone ever taught her how to properly love someone? That night, we slept in the same bed. She held my arm tight, her face buried in my shoulder. Ethan, yeah. I won't do that again, she whispered. I won't hurt myself anymore. I waited for her to continue. Can you teach me how to love someone? She looked up at me in the darkness. I don't know how. No one ever taught me. The softest part of my heart was pierced. Okay, I said. I'll teach you. She nudged my shoulder like a small animal finding its home. What's the first step? The first step, I thought, is learning to love yourself. She was quiet for a while. That's hard. I know. I said. I'll learn it with you, slowly. On Saturday, we went to the supermarket. She pushed the cart while I threw snacks in. This is good. I grabbed a bag of tomato-flavored chips. She looked seriously at the bag and nodded. When we reached the household goods aisle, she stopped suddenly. That. She pointed to the couple's toothbrushes on the shelf. Can we use the same kind? I looked into her expectant eyes and nodded. Sure. She instantly brightened and put 2 blue ones in the cart. At checkout, she held onto the cuff of my shirt, afraid I'd leave. On the way home, she carried 1 bag, and I carried 2. Ethan, what now? Is this what a normal life is like? She asked. Go to mall together, buying groceries together, coming home together. Yeah, I said. It is. She lowered her head and smiled. Monday, I left for work, and she stood at the door to see me off. I made you a lunchbox. She handed me the container. Remember to eat it at noon. I took the lunchbox, feeling a bit out of the ordinary. You, be good at home. She nodded. I won't go through your things, she said, and I won't delete your contacts either. I looked at her. Suddenly, something about her seemed different. I opened the lunchbox at the office. Inside were carefully arranged dishes, and she'd even used a heart-shaped mold for the rice. A colleague walked by and whistled. Whoa, a heart-shaped lunch. Someone's getting some love. I quickly closed the container, my ears feeling a bit warm. I messaged her at noon. Lunch was delicious. She replied instantly. What do you want tomorrow? I thought for a second. Sweet and sour pork ribs? Deal. One day I worked so late my phone died. It was almost 1 a.m. when I got home. I pushed the door open to find Kinsley sitting on the sofa in the dark. My stomach dropped. Back to square one. Kinsley, she looked up. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. Why wouldn't your phone answer? Her voice was raspy. It died, I explained. I was working late. Some urgent project came up. She nodded, silent. I walked over and sat next to her. Are you? Okay. I'm fine, she said. Just a little worried. She reached out and took my hand. Her hand was ice cold. I kept thinking, maybe something happened to you. Or maybe you didn't want me anymore. I'm not going anywhere, I said. I promised. I know. She lowered her head. But I still get scared. I put my arm around her shoulder. Next time, I'll definitely tell you in advance, okay? She leaned into my chest and gave a soft. She didn't mention the knife again that night. About a month later, Kinsley said she wanted to look for a job. Are you sure? I asked. You know, I want to try, she said. I can't rely on you to support me forever. I sighed internally. I knew this was a huge step for her. She started sending out resumes and going to interviews. It wasn't smooth sailing. She came back from an interview looking very down. What's wrong? I asked. They asked what I was doing during my employment gap, she said. I said I was resting at home, and they dismissed me. I stroked her head. Take your time. No rush. She leaned on my shoulder. Ethan, am I really useless? Who says that? I said. You're an amazing cook. You keep the house spotless, and you take great care of people. She looked up, her eyes shining. Really, really. Finally, she landed a job at a local coffee shop. It wasn't far, and the pay wasn't great, but she was thrilled.